Hey guys, Ben Paints here, and today we're back once again for another video. And this time we are at Daytona Tamworth for the 8th and final round of the Superchamps in-house championship that takes place at the track. Now last time we were here in the DMAX Karts, it didn't go too well. So this time we've decided to take the step back once again and move into the N35. Now if you do enjoy this video, can you please leave a like on it down below, as I really do appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button, as it really does help me out. But without further ado, we're going to jump straight into the footage here, and you can see we're on a flying lap. Now this was in fact our fastest lap of qualifying. Now the format for this event was a 10-minute qualifying session followed by a short sprint race, and then this then led into a consequenting final race where the most amount of points were scored for the event. Now we were also split into two categories. We had a lightweight category and a heavyweight category. Anyone over the 80 kilo sort of limit was in the heavyweight category, and luckily at the time of recording this, and I do apologise for this being quite a while ago, I have been slacking on uploading videos at the moment, but the limit was 80 kilos and we were in fact 80.5 on the evening, so we were right on the cusp of being in that heavyweight category, which was a bit of a blessing in disguise, as you will find out later on into the event. So obviously we're coming around on a flying lap here. This is our fastest lap from qualifying. I have tried to brighten up the footage a little bit, as it was extremely dark on the evening, having to use a clear visor, but despite this we're coming across the start finish line with a 1 minute 1.806, which actually put us in 4th position overall out of all of the drivers on the grid, and I believe there was around 20 drivers at this event, so I was really happy to be up in 4th. We're going to jump straight into the sprint race here, and you can see that there are 3 drivers up ahead of us, and the driver in 2nd place is actually another Ben, and he is another heavyweight driver, so he was our main competition for this event, and you're going to see how this unfolds as the laps sort of progress. So we got off to a good start here, obviously starting on the outside in 4th position. We were able to slot in behind the driver in 3rd place and able to preserve our position, and honestly was really happy about this. But I did notice that the 2 guys at the beginning at the front were starting to pull a little bit of a gap already, so didn't want to be hanging around at all. Sent a nice early move up the inside, and this moved us up into 3rd place overall on track. Was really happy with this, and then we do sort of sit behind them for a few laps. So we skip forward a little bit later and we try and pull off the same move on Ben once again, trying to look for that 2nd place and 1st place overall in the category. We're able to slot up the inside. Unfortunately we weren't able to make the move stick. I didn't want to go cutting across ahead of him, as I wanted to leave him a little bit of room, and you can see here unfortunately we weren't able to quite solidify that position. Now this is where our battle sort of commenced for the rest of this sprint heat. So we are now in 3rd place behind Ben, and the driver in 1st place is obviously a lightweight driver, so they should be pulling away from us bit by bit. But obviously Ben is a local driver to the track. He's very accustomed to the track. This well, the footage you're watching is my 3rd time only at the track, so we're just going to try and see what we can do. Now obviously this is only the 4th lap out of 14, so we're really trying to get our head down here and see what we can do, and that's figuratively and physically, as we were deploying some form of human DRS. It was a very windy and blustery evening, so I felt like it did help in my head. And again, as we come through the first couple of corners here, you can see we're just trying to take stable lines. We're just trying to stay as steady on the steering wheel as possible. I found very quickly, if you overturn the steering wheel, you were just going to bog down, lose all your momentum, and the drivers up ahead of you were going to pull away. So we want to try and avoid this as much as possible. And you can see here I'm really trying to use as small inputs as I can going through each of the sweeping corners. Very fast flowing track, so you want to keep that momentum as high as possible, as each corner just flows nicely into the next one. So you can see we're coming into the last stage of the lap once again. Not really too much has changed here. We're trying to use as much of the track as possible, going over the curb on the inside, trying to get as close to the apex as we can, but unfortunately we make a little mistake there, and this produces a bit of a gap. So we do sort of get a little bit of a skip forward, because this is just where we stayed then for the next couple of laps. So we're jumping forward to the same place once again. You can see there's a driver now behind us. There's a lightweight driver, and I realised pretty quickly that there wasn't really going to be too much point in fighting with them, because it was just going to cause us to bog down. We're going to lose touch with the leaders, but unfortunately we were just sort of sitting in the same place. I was trying to work with the driver behind to try and bridge that gap as much as we could. Obviously, where they're lighter on the straights, they're going to be able to push you along, and it's just going to allow you both to catch up together. However, unfortunately for me at this point, the driver behind had enough of working together, lunged up the inside much like I did earlier in the race. I didn't try and defend it too much, as obviously the points were distributed based on the category you were in, so I hadn't actually lost the position based on being overtaken. Now, we do jump forward here right until the last couple of laps of this sprint race, just because nothing else really happened. Ben then got overtaken by the lightweight driver that had overtaken us, and now we're leading ourselves on to the last lap. You can see our fastest lap so far in this one is a 101.084, and we're hoping to try and get close to that come the end of the race. Now we're leading into the last lap here. Ben's taking a very defensive line on the inside. I'm trying to use all the track just to try and take as straight a line or straight an exit out of the corner as we can. You can see we're all over the back of him here. There's not really too much we can do though. He's holding the inside lines of the track very well. I'm trying to pin him to the inside a little bit, looking to go around the outside if I can, but unfortunately didn't quite have the momentum there. There's then a yellow flag, so we're having to slow down. We're sort of bunching ourselves up a little bit. I noticed that everyone wasn't really slowing down too much, so I just wanted to try and maintain that gap as much as possible. And you can see the driver on the right hand side there is stranded. We do get caught napping a little bit, and you can see the drivers up ahead are even sparking. It's all kicking off. Ben's then gone for a move down the inside on the lightweight driver. I tried to follow him. I've gone riding over the curb, slipping on the grass. Very wet evening. And then once again, the driver up ahead has gone for a lunge into the final hairpin there, and it's pinned Ben to the outside, so I was able to just bump the lightweight driver through and just steal the position on the last corner from Ben. So we're able to come across the line from the sprint race to finish in third place on track, and actually first place in the heavyweight category, which I was really happy with. And I didn't actually know this, but at the time the grids were then allocated based on the fastest lap in this race. So we did actually end up starting the next race in second position. A lot of respect there between Ben, but with this we are going to lead into the final race. So obviously with the lap time that I'd produced, this meant that we started in second place. I was second fastest on the track, and this then put us essentially in pole position for the heavyweight category, which I was really happy with. I was hoping that we were going to be able to preserve this for the rest of the race. Didn't want to fight with the driver up ahead too much, just wanted to work with them, push them away, and hopefully be able to bridge some sort of gap to the drivers behind. So you could see off the start, not doing anything silly, just sitting in the draft behind the driver up ahead, not really going for any moves, just trying to work with them, running a little bit wide there, always going all the way through the barriers on the outside of the corners. We do lose a little bit of time there. You can see we've lost quite a bit of momentum. Where we were sat on the grid for a little while, I felt that the kart got quite cold, and this was probably the same for everyone else, but it just threw me off a little bit compared to how I was driving earlier in the evening, and this is going to be reflected in the lap time come the end of this first lap. You can see how much time we've lost to the driver up ahead already, and we're just not quite on it from the start as we were earlier in the sprint race. So you can see just bit by bit we're just eking out losses of time here and there through each of the corners. We're looking over our shoulder, there's not really anyone behind us either, so we both just sort of broken away from the rest of the pack. And honestly at this point I was quite comfortable, quite happy. I was a bit annoyed that I'd lost touch with the leader that much and that quickly, as I was hoping if we were a bit closer together we'd been able to bump each other, been able to push away more. But you can see I'm checking over my shoulder once again, and there wasn't really anyone behind us at this point. So we come across the line for the first lap with a 104.387, and we're checking over our shoulder again. You can see we're taking a nice wide line into the first couple of corners here, just because we weren't really opposed. We were going all over the curb there once again, so making a bit of a mistake, and that has obviously caused us to lose a bit more time compared to when we were driving a little bit better earlier on in the night. And then once again we come into this uphill hairpin, which was very dark, and unfortunately we just lost out to Leo Jackson, who'd be able to squeeze down our inside there. I tried to sort of make a bit of a resend here going into the next corner, but unfortunately this then pins us to the outside, which is a bit of a mistake on my part, as we then leak a position to the other driver behind us as well. We're trying to sort of make a move stick, make our way back through, but unfortunately we just decide better against trying to race the lightweight drivers, as we're just sort of causing a detriment to ourselves. So instead I decided to sit behind them, try to work with them, and hopefully be able to bridge even more of a gap to Ben, who was still behind us, but we had about a 1 or 2 second gap at this point. So I was checking over my shoulder. We did have a bit of a gap. We're losing a lot of time on the straights, as you can see, but luckily we were able to hold first place in the heavyweight category. Now we do jump forward once again to lap 7, just because we were sort of trundling around in this position for a long while, and this is where all the action starts to kick off in the race. So obviously we are about a third of the way through the race. We're really trying to push as much as we can, trying to preserve our position. Leo Jackson goes for a big move down the inside, sort of runs the driver behind a little bit wide, and this allows us to tag onto the back. I was hoping at this point we were going to be able to pick up a few scraps here, maybe be able to make a position of our own. It's not really for any extra points, but just for a bit of personal pride to finish on the overall podium. So we're right up behind the other two drivers ahead of us now, and they're sort of hammer and tong with one another. They're right up behind each other. They're very tight to the apex, and I knew that if I got a good enough run, I'd be able to get a good exit, and I was able to just slot up the inside there. A bit of a cheeky move up the inside using all of the track on the exit, and this allows us to move up into third position, which I was really happy with now at this point, and I was hoping to sort of solidify this position, as not only was I on the podium, but I also had a buffer to Ben behind, who was in the heavyweight category as well. So if we're able to finish in this position, we'd finish first overall in the category, and we go home happy as happy days. So we're still here in third place at this point. We're behind Leo, who's up ahead of us, and we're just trying to follow some of his lines as best we can. We are taking some different ones, as I found they worked a little bit better for me personally, and again we're running all over the curb using all of the track that we can, trying to use as minimal inputs as possible, because obviously, as I mentioned earlier, it bogs the kart down and we don't really want to get stuck, especially coming onto this long straight, just because this is the longest part of the track where you're going to maintain the most speed. You can see I'm saying thank you to the driver behind, giving us a little bit of a bump there, which is allowing us to keep up with Leo up ahead. But we do jump forward once again because we just sort of went rolling around the track in formation really, and as we come into this top hairpin once again, we just leave the door open. Weren't really defending, didn't really have any need to, and then once again, luckily though, we are able to sort of preserve our position this time by holding the inside line. The driver who tried to overtake us didn't quite have that momentum up our inside to make the move stick. So again, we do skip forward a lap as we're just sort of trundling around, and it's a bit of a long lap, and we're coming into the last couple of corners here, really trying to throw the kart in, but unfortunately we're just not quite getting the momentum out of the corner that we want to really close up to the guys up ahead of us. So you can see I'm really deploying some human DRS now at this point. We're taking a bit of a shove from behind. You can see we've entered warp speed now at this point, but unfortunately as we get to the apex of the corner, we just get absolutely shunted off it as well. So a bit of a rough move from the driver behind, but honestly, as I've said before, we weren't really losing any overall places in category at this point, so I was really happy to just be this close with these guys up ahead of us, especially as they weigh a lot less than I do personally. So once again, we're coming into the uphill section of the track, which I was really struggling with just because it was quite dark. Obviously I brightened the video up a little bit, but it was a lot darker than what you're seeing in the footage, so it's quite difficult to really judge the apex and where the damp patches were on the track, as it was a really cold evening, as I mentioned earlier in the video. But up ahead once again, a bit more action as we have the drivers going side by side with one another, and again I was really hoping to just try and pick up the pieces here. So as we come into the hairpin here, I was really hoping to dive down the inside of the pair of them, but unfortunately I get tangled up in their action and we just lose all our momentum, unfortunately, and we just bog down coming onto the fastest part of the track, and this just gives Ben a free position to come sailing past us. So I was a bit annoyed at this point because I felt like I was a bit of a passenger in that incident, not really too well anywhere else I could really go. But yeah, it's one of those things, bit annoyed, but it's not the end of the race just yet. So you can see I'd sussed out by this point in the race that by taking a tighter line through the first couple of corners rather than using all the track, it actually minimized the track distance that much, where it actually resulted in a faster lap time. So I was really pinning myself to that inside line as we came into the first couple of corners, and you can see we're actually managing to catch up and really put the pressure on Ben as a result of it. Now we are into the last couple of laps here in this race, so I knew obviously the three drivers up ahead, they're going to get P1, 2 and 3 overall, and they are all lightweight drivers, so the battle for the heavyweights really is between me and Ben, and obviously Ben is a local driver. He's been to the track for quite a long time, and honestly this was a really fun race. We had a really nice battle with one another, and it was really respectful racing as well, which you can't really ask for much more than that. So we're coming around the last couple of corners now, once again onto the back straight down towards the start finish line, and we're really trying to get ourselves in that slipstream. It did make a bit of a difference here on this track. You can see how much I am gaining, but with that monumental speed boost down that straight, tucking into that slipstream, we were able to come across the line with our fastest lap of the evening so far, a 1 minute .991, and I was really fancying my chances at this point on Ben. I knew there wasn't too much longer left in the race, so I was trying to really put the pressure on him now, trying to make him have to defend and really looking to get a bit aggressive and see what we could get done. So you can see I'm really switching back and forth from a really tight angle to try and pin him to the inside of the track, back to the outside to then try and take the more conventional racing line, trying to fake down to the inside. Unfortunately for me, he didn't quite take the bait there, and he just stuck to the racing line, so he was able to sort of preserve his position through that complex section of corners once again. As we come into the final hairpin once more, really trying to be late on the brakes and then get early on the power so we can get a nice boost out of the corner. Unfortunately, just really overcooking it there, and that just led to us bogging down. So this is once again where we stayed until the very last lap of the race, and little beknown to us, me and Ben came across the line and there was green flags. We were still going, but the drivers up ahead had been shown a checkered flag, so they were all slowing down here at this point. There's green flags waving on the right hand side, and there's confusion going on all over the place, so it really closed up the pack quite a lot. And unfortunately for the guys up ahead, Ben was able to capitalise and move himself up into third position. Again, there's a bit of a ding-dong battle here, and I was really hoping that Ben was going to lose out so I'd be able to pounce on him and take that P1 from him. But unfortunately, we're just a little bit too far back. There's not really too much we can do here. Driver up ahead's looking for a bit of a switchback move. He's complaining. He's not happy with what's happened. And to be fair, I do understand. He goes for a move down the inside, but Ben has defended it very well. Gets loaded off the corner. I was hoping to bump the driver in front through, much like we had earlier in the day. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be. And we are about to come across the line in 5th place overall and 2nd place in category. Now, honestly, this was a really enjoyable event. Had a lot of fun. Had a lot of nice, fun, clean racing with Ben, who's obviously up ahead of us, celebrating from winning the title, the Superchamps title, from doing the whole season. So a massive congratulations to him. Had a great time with him, and honestly, massive respect. So with that in mind, we do come to the end of the video, so I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. If you have, can you please leave a like on the video down below, as I really do appreciate it. And if you're new to the channel, if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button, as I really do appreciate it. We've just reached over 800 subscribers, and that's without me posting a video for the last month, so I do really apologise for that. I've had a bit of a rough Christmas, and also just been a bit busy over Christmas time in general, so I hope you guys appreciate and understand that. However, our next event is going to be coming up, and it will be the next video on the channel, and that will be the British Rental Kart Championship. I really did enjoy making that video and competing in that event last year, so I'm really looking forward to bring that one to you guys. Down below in the video description is my link tree, which holds all the links to other social medias that I hold, so feel free to follow me on there and keep more up to date. But in the meantime, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.